Hey, everybody, we're here for the new episode of Five for Talking, where you get 5 minutes in the sin bin for talking. I'm here with Nick Caps, the captain of the show, the muscles in the sauce. I think this is going to be a mostly Leaf focused episode, as the last two kind of have as well. We do have some NHL stuff to talk about. Um, Mostly, I think. Let's just start off here. So I don't know if you've been keeping up with Columbus. I'm assuming not because no one keeps up with Columbus. Um, However, Johnny Gaudreau and Patrick Laine have been getting a lot of flack lately,
They
and
haven't been producing.
no, they've been playing terribly. I believe Gaudreau has like one goal this season. I'll check that after, but
Two, I
two.
think
There you
maybe
go.
two.
Um, but they've been playing terribly today. For today's games, today's Sunday. This video will be coming out on Monday. Um, he was benched,
Mm-hmm.
which kind of shocked me. I'm going to be honest. I wasn't expecting Laine to be benched for a whole game. However, in the last game prior to this, for in the third period, he barely played Laine or Gaudreau at all. Um, give me your thoughts.
If he ain't gonna produce, bench him.
I
At
mean,
least somebody has the guts to do that.
we're going to end up coming back to them later, but I
No,
mean, nobody on Calgary is producing. So what do you do? Bench that whole team?
no, it's just yeah. I mean, you got the rumors like Kadri wants out of Calgary. Um, you know, I didn't even know until today. I was looking at the line combinations. I didn't know Huberdeau was playing on the third line. I think he makes the most money on the team. But yeah, I mean, they're not playing that great. But going back to Columbus, like last year we knew that they were going to be one of the worst teams, and this year we thought that they made some strides and that they were going to possibly push for a playoff spot, but it just seems as though they're just doing what they were doing last year, and it's just they're just bad. They are bad.
You're not wrong there. It's kind of weird because I think even last year we expected them to be a little bit better than they were.
Hmm.
And then this year we thought for sure they have to turn it around now. Not maybe to be a cup winner, but like a playoff fighter, like getting for the fighting for that last spot. And I don't know. I just think it's very odd. I think they addressed a lot of their needs in the offseason as well, which made it even stranger. Like I genuinely don't know. It's an odd situation here for this two reasons, and this it correlates with Calgary. Um, Gaudreau has been playing terribly in Columbus. Okay, Huberdeau has been playing terribly in Calgary. And like I have Huberto's numbers legitimately in front of me. He got 92 points in 82 games, then 78 and 69, and then 61 and 55, and then 115 points in 80 games. And then last year he was 55 and 79, and right now he has 10 points in 17 games. He went from being a career like point per game guy to in the last two seasons dropping under that. So like I don't know, it's not like he's old. He's what, 30, I think? He's 30 years old on the dot.
He got that fat contract, and all of a sudden, when he got that fat contract, I mean, everything went downhill. It didn't work out. I think he was playing less minutes under Sutter. Not sure what he's averaging this year in terms of ice time, but um, in terms of production, it seems like it's pretty much the same. I mean, it's still pretty early. He can definitely still turn it around, but it seems as though that whole team needs a little bit of restructuring. But like Markstrom seems to have fallen off as well.
Yeah.
He was like their superstar goalie, and all of a sudden, last couple of years, he looks like he's been struggling.
Which is funny. Bring a little bit of the like outside of work aspect into this. In the hockey pool, the one I usually do, in the box with Markstrom, everyone was picking Markstrom. Like I would say 75% of the 20 people picked Markstrom. So like 15 people. And I, for the life of me, I couldn't understand why. When I looked at that team, how they did last year and how they didn't really restructure this year, I was like, they're going to be terrible again. Why is everybody picking Markstrom? And lo and behold, they suck. And he sucks.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like Calgary has built. Well, I mean, maybe in the last couple of years, probably doesn't apply, but it's the same, pretty much the same players. They've built a pretty good defensive core structurally, and because of that, people thought that Markstrom would just fit in, well, and he did at first, but something happened. Something happened in the last couple of years. I don't know if he's injured or whatever the case is, but in the last couple of years, he's fallen off, and obviously, I'm guessing this is going to lead into what you were going to be talking about next. But it seems as though there are a few people that are unhappy there. It seems like Kadri wants out. A couple of D guys want out, and that's bad. That's not looking good in Calgary.
So we'll get to that in Leafs talk because there's going to be a connection between Leafs and Calgary, which everyone knows. I believe we touched on it a little bit last week. So just this is kind of off topic. We didn't really plan to talk about this specific one, but I just wanted to bring it up. What are your thoughts since they faced the Leafs on Minnesota and how poor they're playing this season? Well, Kaprizov and Zuccarello are both still playing well. It's just the rest of the team is like absent. I don't expect you to have in depth on this, but like I know Minnesota should be a good team.
They should be a good team. I mean, that team was built well. Marc-Andre Fleury is still playing relatively okay. It's crazy. I mean, you know what? I mean, if we're talking about the whole league in itself, like we're seeing things that are pretty much catching us by surprise. Philly is doing pretty good
and consistently staying doing good.
Yeah, Jersey's fallen off. I mean, that probably has a lot to do with the fact that Hughes has been injured. I never thought that the Rangers would be doing as well as they're doing. Boston is doing as well as they're doing, and I'm sorry, I still don't think. I feel as though that they're going to drop off a little bit.
I mean, that's fair though. It's expected, right? Like,
yeah.
I think Tampa's exactly where we thought they would be. Which is the funny part is, I don't know if you've seen the stats. Tampa has like right now a top 5 offense. But they're not really winning any game. Like they're winning, but they're not like doing like extremely well.
Yeah. And, the fact that they are where they are kind of surprises us because they're doing it without Vasilevsky. And it's kind of a bonus because once Vasilevsky comes back, then, it's going to be, it's going to be very dangerous, like for all the other teams because, Vasilevsky is Vasilevsky. You have Vancouver.
Surprising.
Wow, it's just like you have Pedersen, Miller, and Hughes at the top of the points leaders for the whole league, which is amazing. And I think we thought that they, on paper they got a good team, but this what they're doing this year was
their team is I don't know who to really compare it to. You kind of want to say Edmonton because of like the way that Edmonton spent those years of constantly drafting high draft picks. But the difference is now the young guys in Vancouver are starting to show up, It was like, how long is it going to take all these high draft picks to like come out, right? And it's like this year it's happening. I mean, and Chicago is surprising me big time. Because even in the games when they're losing, they're putting up a huge fight against some really good teams.
Yeah. I thought like the when they played against Boston, that was a pretty darn good game. But you could see Bedard's going to be a superstar. He's just got to get used to the leagues. Just got to get used to playing with the big boys, and next year he's going to just tear it up. But he's doing very, very well right now. But yeah, I mean, Washington is catching me by surprise too. I mean, geez, like I think they're like second place in their division, and they're doing this without Backstrom. Um, so yeah, it's just bizarro world, I guess, in the NHL.
So I have a stat for you, and then we'll talk about Patrick Kane. And through the first 13 games of the season, which I believe was like 4 days ago, but this is when the stat is from. Through the first 13 games, of all the active first overall draft picks in the NHL right now, Bedard has the third most points, which is 13 in 13 games, and he has the most goals of all of them, which is 9. The second place was Ovechkin, who had 8 at this point. So he's really going along. The people ahead of him, if anyone wants to know, are Crosby and Kane. He's third in points. So that's pretty good company, right? Those are all 3 really good players to be in their zone. McDavid is not even close to that. McDavid has like 8 total points in his first 13 games.
Mm.
So I mean, okay, good for him. That's not going to tell you everything, but I just thought it was an interesting stat. And I know you want to talk about Patrick Kane a little bit.
Well, go for it.
Where do you think he's going to go? Be honest.
I think he goes to Buffalo. It's just an instinct. I'm honestly like obviously I can't guarantee that but I think he does go Buffalo. I think he goes home. I think he tries to help the team because I think he's already won his cups. I don't know if he has it in him to win another one, but that would obviously I think that would go with what you're going to pick. But Kane to the Leafs. I
Not
mean,
happening.
I don't think that's happening because that's not a priority.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
There was a lot of buzz around it because he was training nearby
Oakville.
in Oakville. But I believe, in my opinion, that's just because he may be getting ready to try out for Buffalo or something. And why would you want to be doing it in Buffalo when you could do it in Toronto, kind of thing? Like, I'm sure our training facilities are better, and that could be why. But
I mean, like everybody thinks that he's gonna go to Leafs because he wants to play with his buddy Austin Matthews. I don't know if he'll be on the first line.
I mean, should the trade that we may think happens, that's possible, but I don't see that happening. I think my opinion is the opposite of yours, is that he's chasing cups and he's going to go to Florida. But I do think, to me, the only other option than Florida is going to Buffalo. You're correct, because he's going to go home. He'll finish his last 3 seasons or 4 seasons that he plays in Buffalo. Hopefully he doesn't get injured. And he just chases points that he's trying to get, he's very close to a lot of the American records, moving up the all-time points and goals lists. So that is what that is. Do you have anything else on that?
No, I don't really have anything else on Kane. I guess we can move on to something else.
You know what? Our NHL section was longer than we thought it would be. Milan Lucic was arrested for domestic assault.
That's nuts. I don't want to get into that. I don't know the details.
I'm not going to dig into that at all, but he is a giant piece of meat. So like eventually he was probably going to do something crazy. Moving on from that, let's talk about the Leafs. How do you, since the last video, they played 3 times, I believe, 2 of them in Sweden. What are your thoughts on the Sweden trip?
I think it was awesome that they brought the sport to another country, playing a couple of NHL games. I think they should do more of these, venturing out to other countries. That's the positive side. The negative side, they still can't.
That was not a lot of positives.
No, I'm sorry. Like the fact is that they still cannot put in a full 60.
No, they can't. And when they
can't do it.
And the part that I don't like about it, I didn't mean to cut you off, but the part that I don't like about it is when they don't put in a full 60, the like 18 minutes that they do put in is always the last 18 minutes of the game. They were getting spanked by Detroit.
They were. but I don't like the fact that they have to chase these chase the score, chase these games. In the latter half of every single game, because it's not going to work every single time. It's
No,
not.
and it's happened far
Um,
too often.
it's happened far too often, and it feels as though they're becoming very too comfortable with it. But a few guys that had strong games. I think Nylander had a good game. Tavares and Bertuzzi had a good first game. Matthews turned it on up in the second game.
Riley was pretty good in the second game.
Raleigh was the best player, in my opinion, the best player in that game. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I just found it kind of funny in that Detroit game. The guy that cost Detroit the winning goal was Mr. Hall.
Yeah.
It's just, I feel bad for the guy, but thought I'd point that out.
It's yeah. What are you gonna do?
He's been benched a couple of times too, I think.
Yeah,
I think he's been benched a couple of times. Detroit has benched him a couple of times.
good.
Eesh. Yeah.
That was
But
your
yeah,
guy.
no, sorry. Overall, like I thought it was really, really, two entertaining games. Uh, um, I just hated the fact that they had to go to overtime today against Minnesota. Yes, I did wait. I was awake to watch the game. A nice 8 a.m. game.
Odd.
But crazy. Let me know how you feel.
Basically the same. You didn't say anything wild or crazy that I think is out of the ordinary. I feel like that's where they land, and I don't. I'm not high on them right now. I don't think they're that good. I think they can score goals, but the problem is they don't score goals throughout the game. They score all the goals in the last 2 minutes, and it's the goaltending has been weak. In my opinion, in the last, I don't know, let's say 3 games each for the goalies, Samsonov has been a lot better than Wall has. Samsonov's not getting wins necessarily, but I feel like Wall is just letting in like 7 goals a game. Like that's how it feels. So I mean they're both not playing well. And there's a hole in defense that needs to be addressed. And I think like that's going to come up next for our next conversation, but maybe they need to address goaltending. I don't know how they afford a goalie.
Yeah, they're so up against the cap. I think I don't think this is going to be possible. I mean, they want to address their highest priority, and that's defense. It's become obvious that Klingberg is not going to work out. It's not. He's he's a defensive liability. When it comes to making contributions to offense, he hasn't been doing anything. He was brought in to contribute on the power play because he has a shoot first mentality, and every time he's quarterbacking that power play, he never shoots. He never shoots, so he's just doing the exact same thing that Riley's doing. Um, but I think in the last couple of games, I wasn't sure if he played against Detroit, but he didn't play today against Minnesota. It looks like he's injured and maybe long term. But they got to figure out a way to possibly part ways with him and bring in someone who is good on defense. Um, and the other thing I want to bring up is the Reeves situation. I think putting in McMahon on that fourth line has made that line much much better. Um, it looks as though it's just not going to work out with Reeves as well, unless he can fix things. I just don't see it working out. I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, it's I mean, okay, so Bertuzzi and Domi have kind of gotten better.
Yeah.
And I think we have a lot less to complain about with them. I think they're fitting in with the chemistry of the team a lot better. I think Kampf has been better than he was. And he really only has one job, is to play defense. And for his entire career, he's been an excellent defensive forward and winning faceoffs.
And win faceoffs.
But I feel like this year, to start off, at least the first 10 games, he wasn't playing very good.
No.
Which is strange when you're so good at something and then you just can't do it. I think maybe it was mental. He seems to have snapped out of it. Really, my only disappointment here is Mitch Marner. And it's not even that he's playing poorly, right? The entire defense is upsetting to me except Giordano. So I'm not even going to address that. The goaltending is not upsetting to me because I don't know if I can really have big expectations out of Samsonov and Wall. You know what I mean? But Marner was the best, not best, the point guy on our team 2 years in a row. He is really struggling to do anything on his own. He hasn't been creating at all. He's mostly just been getting points from being on the lines when Nylander or Matthews are out there. And I think if you have to trade somebody, in my opinion, Marner or Brody are your best two options because they're the only things that you can move that people are going to want. Unless you trade Nylander, but like we talked about, re-signing Marner is probably going to cost you $13 million. Re-signing Nylander is not costing you that. You'll probably pay 10, I think. So
yeah, I mean, obviously we know that Marner's going to have to waive his no trade clause.
But I genuinely think, and like, don't take this the wrong way because I know a lot of people like Marner. I'm not here to hate on him. I don't think he wants to be here. I think he likes playing with his buddies, but I think he wants to be the guy. And in order for him to do that, he's got to go to a team that's not at the bottom, but is like somewhere in the middle, and that's Calgary. And I think I don't know how to make a trade with them because they have 2 million in cap space. Oh, sorry, they have 0 cap space. Okay, 0, and we also have 0.
Talking about the Leafs?
Calgary
Oh,
and
talking about Calgary.
both of us have 0 cap space. But I think if you can make a trade here where you trade Mitch Marner and you bring in Markstrom and Zadorov, I think that's like the most appealing option to me. I'm sure you're gonna have to find a third team to eat some salary from the Leafs because I don't know how much Mitch Marner costs. Let me check. I can tell you. But you're definitely gonna have to take on cap from him, right? Mitch Marner costs 10.9. You're thinking about it. That's not that bad of a trade, right?
I think it's very appealing. It's just I'm still thinking about the fact that Marner would have to waive his no trade clause. That's the biggest obstacle.
Yeah,
Whether
that
he wants to do that.
we would need to find a spot to send $1 million to.
It's like I think they only have a window, and that is like as soon as the season's done and up until about end of June, where you have a window where you can actually trade Marner. But
And it's not because
yeah.
I think Marner needs to go. I just think it's the easiest option, unless you trade Brody, because you can trade Brody 1-for-1 with Zadorov. But if I'm Calgary, I don't know if I want to make that trade. You're probably gonna have to throw in draft picks for me to take that trade, right? But you could pair him with one of the young guys.
So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I really don't have. I don't have an opinion in terms of who should go, who should come in. It's a very difficult thing to take on. But I think you brought it up before. Like the Leafs are actively looking for some defense. It'll be very interesting in terms of how to make it work with that team, the Leafs, and every other single team. Well, I would say about maybe 90% of the teams in NHL so up against the cap to make the money work. And I think one of the options is, and you brought it up, is to get a third team to take on some salary. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's an interesting take, but I don't know if we will possibly see something that big happen this season because it seems as though Shanahan just loves these guys, this core group, and I don't see Shanahan wanting to stray away from or let any one of them go.
You know
I
what
don't know.
they
That's
could
just me.
do? And I think this, in my opinion, this would work too. You throw Shanahan in that trade because I would love to get rid of him.
I mean, okay. Here's a hot take. Out of all those guys, every single one, the core group, the coach, the GM, and Shanahan, I think the next person, if someone does get fired, the next person that goes will probably be Shanahan
For sure.
before Keith. Before Keith.
I also agree with that. They have some kind of weird fetish for Keith. I don't understand what it is. I just don't get it. Especially when you can just fire a coach at any time you want you don't even need a reason. The fact that they're holding on to him doesn't make any sense to me. You had a lot of really good options at the end of last season and during the offseason to pick up a good coach. And you could have got Michael Babcock.
Oh.
And I think that's really what Edmonton needs is Mike Babcock. But
Nobody needs Mike Babcock. Nobody wants them to look at their phones. We could bring up Edmonton a little bit if you want.
Go ahead. Tell me about Edmonton.
Edmonton has been playing better.
Yeah, Connor McDavid is still not playing that good.
He's not playing good at all, but the team's playing better. The team's playing better in front of Skinner, which is giving them a chance to win. So I think, with the exception of last night's game, they were like on a 3-game winning streak. So, things are looking up in Edmonton, I guess. They can keep it up. The only person that needs to fix things up is Connor McDavid. Once he does that, I think they'll be good again. I don't know. Maybe I think he's still lingering.
For sure.
His injury. I don't think he's 100%.
100%. He's still injured. I do think you're right. I also do think though now my opinion on them has slightly changed, where I don't think they're a contender. Even if they turn it around, when they get to the playoffs, I don't think that team has what it takes.
Yeah, I'm probably with you on that one, man.
They're weak. They don't play defense. They have no goalies. You're not winning anything in the playoffs.
It's crazy because they're supposed to be better than last year, and I think they got better in a sense, but damn, man, it's like
they do have a better team, I think, than they did last year, but they're also in the Leafs situation where there's things they needed to address, like a goalie. They really wanted to get Connor Hellebuck, but they couldn't afford it. Because to trade for him, they have to give up a lot.
Yeah, but they did something that the Leafs wouldn't do. They actually waived a superstar goalie, a goalie that was making $5 million that wasn't doing any good for them, and they just waived them. And now I think they created a little bit of space where they could try and go out and try and get someone. So, I'll give them kudos for that.
The Leafs should sign Jonathan Bernier. Everyone knows that. We should get Glenn Healy back. Just Don Beaupre, Marcel Cousineau. Why not?
Andrew Raycroft.
Whoa, that's too far. That's too far.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, I think that's all I have. Do you have anything else?
No, man, I'm good.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Let us know what you think about some of the stuff that we talked about in the comment section. And have a good day.